Y'all ready to do season 2?
Yep.
Let's kick it off.
That's my child.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
This is Behind the Pulpit. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's been a long time coming. We missed you, and I hope you missed us.
Yeah.
We had a great time with you in the first season of Behind the Pulpit. We thank everybody who's tuning in back with us for the second season here of Behind the Pulpit. I'm Corey Spivey alongside.
I'm Marika Salas.
And we again want to welcome you in, and we're just at a loss for words for how much support we got within the first season. And as we were getting prepared for the second season, we were always hearing the question, getting so many messages and people reaching out. When is season 2 coming back?
Right.
And it is but by the grace of God that he allowed us to be back with you with season 2. We've got a lot of new things that are coming towards you. More people that have tapped in. We've got adjustments and changes that we have made, so much that we have learned. But even season 1, we're thankful of how much of a success that it was.
Absolutely.
We had so many different people that came on, so many different topics. The situation and our support system just grew so much. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is we want to reflect back on season 1. And so as we think again about season 1 and the success that we had, what are your thoughts or some of the things that you learned in season 1?
Yeah. One of the things I learned, man, was that people needed this. Like you guys shared with us how much of a need this was, and we're so thankful to God that hopefully we were able to try to meet that need in season 1. What ministry is truly like behind the pulpit, behind the curtain. You know, we see Sunday morning, you see the minister get up and give the lesson, but what truly goes down behind the curtain? I think people wanted to see the life of a preacher, of the minister and what he goes through. So that was one of the things that I learned, but also that we aren't the only ones, man. We aren't the only ones. So many of the ministers that we were able to interview this past season, we saw and we realized that they either were in this position that we're in, or they are in it currently. So it's so good to know that all preachers that may be watching this, you guys are not alone. And I learned that as in thinking back on season 1. But I'm just grateful, man, for what God did with season 1 and just all the blessings that we have, all the feedback we got, and just all the encouragement and support. It wouldn't be a season 2 if it hadn't been for you guys. So we appreciate it, and we're just so thankful for everything that transpired in season 1, and excited for what God is about to do in season 2. So man, I want to ask you too, Spivey, what were some things that you learned, some things that stuck out to you in season 1, or some successes, or even maybe some things that maybe wasn't so high? What were some of those things?
I definitely have to second your first point about how many people needed this. I didn't really realize it. I mean, I know that it was something that we wanted to do that we thought would have a good following, but I never thought that people cared that much. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was kind of under the perspective that it was going to be a lot of preachers just kind of listening just to see, what's in their minds. But, and we got a lot of preachers that came on, a lot of people that were in ministry. But what really blew my mind, going along with what you said, was how many church members, right, that maybe aren't involved in ministry, that were not only involved or curious about what goes on behind the pulpit, but who were so supportive. Right. So that is one thing I definitely did learn, that there was a need there.
Absolutely.
And the second thing I learned is that even though we use this phrase a lot, where it's not as it's nobody's an overnight success. Right. We use that all the time, but I think one of the things that I didn't really think about was when we were meeting with people for the first time, is that you see these people and you see the tip of the iceberg, right? It's the success. You know them as they are now. But it was like a current theme, a reoccurring theme that went with every single person that came on. Is that no matter how long they had been in ministry, it took them a long time to get there.
Absolutely.
And, that was really encouraging to me, because it's like, we have conversations all the time, like where it's like, man, you see the mistakes that you make, and it's kind of like, and the things you don't know, and you're kind of like, is this really for me?
Yeah,
right? Can I really pull this through? And so listening to so many of you preachers that came on in the first season, it was really eye-opening for me. Again, I knew that it was no overnight success. I knew that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm curious with the saying, but hearing people's just raw honesty of, man, it wasn't always easy, right?
Yeah.
Was eye-opening to me, but the encouraging part was they stuck with it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the main things that I learned is that you just have to stick with it.
Yes, sir.
And if you can stick with it, over time you begin to grow and you learn new things, and you can only get to a successful point when you continue to fail.
That's
right?
Absolutely.
And you learn new ways to do things. So that was amazing. And one of the main things that I think I learned from people that came on the first semester, first season.
Yeah, and that's good, man. I totally agree with that. You know, and the cliche, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? And although it's cliche, it's true because I mean it's so easy to get burned out in this when you talk. And you all saw last year we kind of talked about how to balance family life and preparing sermons and just all that comes into trying to get that 30-45-minute lesson out on Sunday. It's so much more. So it's really tough, and it's such a marathon and not a sprint. And like you said, slow and steady wins this race. Absolutely. But so as we get ready to go into this season 2, our goal this year is to try to continue to encourage ministers and what's life like behind the pulpit. But we also want to discuss where the church is headed and what things we can do to grow in 2023 and beyond. So those are some areas and directions that we're planning on going this year. But with that being said, I want to ask one question. So Corey, how do you make an impact in ministry as an assistant or a youth minister? Because I think sometimes we feel like we don't.
Right.
Sometimes we feel like we are just the backup man, like when the preacher can't preach. So it's like, okay, you up, doc, you know, and it's like, that's good. And we appreciate that. But there's times where we feel like, is that it? So how do you make an impact as an assistant minister or youth minister, or how do you make an impact in that position?
I think the first thing that you have to do is properly define your position. Yeah. And then you have to understand your role. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like you were saying, sometimes it can feel like, is this it? Am I doing enough? Am I making an impact? And I think it's because sometimes we have not properly defined our role or our position. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way or a belittling way. Sure. I mean that from the perspective of sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves. Sometimes our role is not clearly defined. And even for somebody that may be sitting there saying, well, I am just a backup guy. I only preach when my preacher's not there. That's fine. Yeah. Right. On that day, if you were not there, who would preach? Right. Exactly. So I think it's knowing what your role is and understanding what that role is. And so one of the things that, and I can speak from personal experience, and I've just been blessed with, and I know you have too. That's part of what makes us grow so well is we have great mentors. Absolutely. When I sat down with Brother Chris Jackson, he helped me lay out what was expected of me, right? So my role was clearly defined. There were areas that I was expecting myself to have to overdo these things, and Chris would step in and be like, that's too much pressure. Yeah. That's not your job, right? This is all I need you to do, right? That's good. And so, again, it was clearly understanding my role and then playing that role. Yeah. Whatever it was, no matter how small or how large it was, playing that role, sitting up under your mentor or whoever is pouring into you, and just waiting for God to open that thing up, sir. Right? Yes, sir. And the last thing that I would say, and I also get this, Brother Jackson tells me this all the time, is just be you. Yeah. Whatever you do well, you do that. Yes, right? Sir. I know that seems like it's too simple, and you maybe be looking for something more elaborate. But one of the things I do well is I build relationships. Yeah. Right. Just having conversations with people and just having fun, making people smile. Absolutely. That is my gift. Yeah. Meaning that I may not step in a pulpit a lot of times, but if I can impact you outside of the pulpit, just make you feel seen. Yeah, absolutely. I've done my job and I've played my role. So yes, sir. Lean into what your purpose and your gifts is or are, play that role fine.
Yeah.
And be comfortable with it. That's
yes,
what
sir.
I would say.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great answer. And I totally agree with that. I stand on that. Knowing your role and what impact means to you, because it could be different. Right. You know, how you're impacting your, you know, how you may impact Jackson Street. I may not necessarily impact Green Meadow in that way. Right. I may have a different impact on Green Meadow. So I think, like you said, defining what your role is, understanding that and your purpose, and walking in that thing. Head on, trusting God, walking with God, and I think, like you said, sitting under your mentor and observing. That's been, I've learned so much by not doing it or not being in the front, but sitting back and watching my mentor, watching Raph do things, seeing how he shepherds and how and just the things that he does, you know, on a every Lord's Day basis, and you know, through the week, watching that. So be an observer, and also don't just choose a mentor. You know, all mentors can be good, but there can be some that's not so good. So one of the things I would say, choose your mentor, pray about it, allow God to choose your mentor, and sit under him and learn from him, glean as much as you can from him. So I think those are some ways that you can make a critical impact in your church by serving, giving all you got. You may not preach every Sunday. You may not preach every month. It may be quarterly. Serve however you can. Whether, like Spivey said, whether it's building connections or making people feel seen, or just going out with people and loving on them and being benevolent to people, whatever it may be, just walk in that and serve and do all things to the glory of God. I think you'll make a great impact. And don't be discouraged even if you don't see the fruits of that, right? Because it's like you said, it's not immediate. It takes years for you to see the fruit of the labor that you put in. So slow and steady wins the race. Keep the faith, hang in there, and everything will be all right.
Yeah, I think those are great points. One of the things I kind of took from that is success leaves clues. That's something that success leaves clues.
That's good.
Right? And so you got to be able to read those clues and figure out what can I apply to my ministry moving forward. But the flip side of that is when you're talking about sometimes people are not great mentors. Right? And that's fine too. Unfortunately, sometimes you got to sit through a class and it's like, you know what, I really didn't need this class. But you still learn. One of the things, I'm a Laker fan, and one of the things that I heard Phil Jackson say after a game they got blew out, he said, we don't stink. We're not a bad basketball team. It just means whatever we did tonight didn't work. Right? Absolutely. And so sometimes you have to be able to take that not only from a mentor-mentee perspective, but also from your trial and error. Right? Absolutely. It doesn't mean I stink as a minister. It doesn't mean I should get out of the ministry. And that's something I have to tell myself. Sometimes it's just, listen, what you're doing right now just didn't work. You learned another way not to do ministry. That's good. Right? But it's part of the process, and it's part of what the tuition you have to pay in the game.
Yeah, I really like that. Success leaves clues, and it does. And you have to be, again, going back to that observing point, to see what to take and what not, because surely, nobody's perfect, right? So there's going to be successes and failures, even that your mentor shows or exhibits. So with that, you're going to have to okay, that worked, and that didn't. So as if God blessed me to be in that role, and if that's the role I'm striving for, that's something I may not do, but that that particular thing, I'm gonna do that because I seen that word. So I definitely think I agree with that. Success leaves clues. And one thing that I stand by too is just always be prepared. Always be ready for when God is going to elevate you and put you in that position. As they said, stay ready so you don't got to get ready, right? And although that's cliche, it still is true. Right. And if you hold to that, I think you'll benefit from it greatly.
I think we've got things kicked off to a great start. On season 2, and again, it seems like I'm just a broken record, but we just can't thank you enough for your support.
Absolutely.
Again, we've been saying a lot of cliche things, but they're all true. And part of one of those cliche things, again, that's true, is without you, this wouldn't be anything. We'd just be two young preachers talking to each other behind the screen. You know what I mean? And that's fine. We do that sometimes. And we'd be just fine talking to each other. But being able to impact the world around us is one of the greatest things that we can be able to do is just pour into other people as we have been poured into. And so again, we thank you so much for your support. If you haven't already, follow us on Facebook. Follow us individually on Facebook. But also we're asking that you follow the Preacher and his Scars as they help us out and they partner with us and they pour into us as well.
Absolutely.
And all the ministries that they're tapped into. We just ask that you will support all of us and continue to stay tuned next week. Until next time, I'm Corey Spivey.
I'm Marika Sellers.
And this is
Behind the Pulpit.